Oh boy. First off, I want to say congratulations to the Yukon Huskies for an amazing season. Those girls were obviously head and shoulders above and better than everybody else in the entire tournament. And once they got in the tournament, they proved that they were the best. I mean, completely dominating teams by 30 plus points, 20 plus points, and doing it with complete ease. I mean, sometimes it literally seems like those girls weren't even breaking a sweat out there on the floor because they just made it look so easy. And also, a shout out to the great Don Staley and the South Carolina Gamecocks, who were also amazing. For the lack of a better term, they overachieved by getting to the final game in the NCAA tournament. And then it goes to show you that even in a down year, how great this team actually is by getting to the championship game and losing, and that be a down year for your program. It just goes to show the level of greatness that they have, and it just goes to show that what they're working on is actually working. Now, let's get to the subject at hand. Many people are trying to make this entire situation about race, and mainly, if you were going for Don Staley and the South Carolina Gamecocks and you were black, you were racist. And I want to nip that in the bud real quick because to me, logically, that doesn't make any sense. Because how can I be rooting for a black woman being a black man and that be an issue? But you can be a white man or a white woman and be rooting for Coach Gino and Paige Buckers, and that be no issue at all. See, to me, that's where the problem lies. And we were having the same issues with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese because that rivalry basically ushered in the divide between black and white when it came to college women's sports. And people that were in the sports, that were into college basketball, mainly women's college basketball, what have you, or they were just being introduced to it, they got immersed into it. Well, if you don't like Caitlin Clark and you're black, you're racist. And everybody on Angel Reese's side was thinking more so that the people that supported Caitlin Clark were racist. And in my opinion, I believe it honestly to be true from what I've seen. Because for me, I think that a woman like Angel Reese has been fighting for the praise that I feel that she deserves to get because she is a NCAA champion. She did receive her NCAA championship at the expense of Caitlin Clark, and she is a great player in her own right. And the main thing I hated then is the same thing that I hate now. The fact that a person can be great like Caitlin Clark and like Angel Reese is, but the issue lies where people who support Caitlin Clark, the majority of them have never watched basketball before Caitlin Clark came along. So they're coming along with agendas, and they want their agendas to be pushed. They want their agendas to be heard. So because of that, it's the downplaying of everybody else involved in order to uplift Caitlin Clark. And that's what I don't like. Because, like for me, for instance, I compare them to LeBron James fans. For anybody that knows me personally, I'm a pretty fair guy when it comes to sports, but I think that Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player to ever play because I actually watched Jordan. I got to see Jordan more so in that 1995 96 year when they went 72 and 10. That's when I actually got to the point where I was actually starting to watch Jordan and understand what I was watching. And I got to see him go throughout the rest of his years and see how he played the game and how he mastered the game. I got to witness that live. And to a lot of people that make assumptions or predictions or whatever you want to call it, they never watched Jordan play live. And for a person like me who watched him, thanks to my uncle being always there, keeping me under his wing, and he was a big Jordan guy, so I was able to watch it, and I was able to capture those moments. But I said that to say this: LeBron is great, and Jordan is great. And I'm not the person where I have to down LeBron in order to show how great Michael Jordan is. But for the most part, that's what LeBron fans do. And for the most part, that's what Caitlin Clark fans do. They literally have to bring up Angel Reese in every discussion in order to lift up Caitlin Clark. For instance, we in the comment section on social media were talking about Paige Buckers and how great she is, and how great Sarah Strong is, and how great UConn is. And this guy, for no apparent reason, came in there and he just started talking about, oh, well, Caitlin Clark didn't lose to Paige Buckers whenever she played and she beat them, blah, blah, blah. And nobody even brought up Caitlin Clark into discussion at all, but he just felt it amongst himself to bring her in there, even though we were basically talking about the UConn Huskies and the South Carolina Gamecocks. And he just felt it right to make Caitlin a part of the conversation. And on top of that, he literally felt that it was only right to bring up, well, Angel Reese didn't do this. Because, like, over the past weekend, I've gone over a lot of things with a lot of people. And I was telling the guys in the comment section that I wanted Dawn Staley in South Carolina to win for the simple fact that she's a black woman and she's on the verge of making history if she was to win. And for that, I got called a racist and blah, 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 and all that other stuff. And I told them, like, you're speaking from a place of emotional ignorance because you don't know me. Because, like, if you did know me and you knew my stances and where I stood on certain things, you would know how I operated when it came to certain things. You would know that I'm harder on the black community more than any other community in the world because I'm a black man. I've read tons of books on black history. I know where we come from. I know where we've been. I know the struggles that our people have went through to get to this point. So of course I'm going to be harder on my community when I know and when I see that we can do better and be better. But when it's a situation where I can uplift somebody in the black community, I'm going to do that. And I'm not going to feel sorry for it. And I told the man I wouldn't expect for a white man to understand that. You know what I'm saying? Because if it's a certain situation where it's reversed, I'm not going to be able to understand it from a white man's point of view because I've never been a white man a day in my life. So that's where it was for me. But this past weekend has really shown me how ignorant some people are. Because once the game was over, like I said before, I went on social media just to say how great the game was and how great Sarah Strong was and how I've been pushing this agenda that she's the best player on the team all year. And I never told, and I've never said it in a condescending way. It was more so of me knowing what I was looking at. And most people look at it and was like, well, you hating on Paige Buckers. And I never said that. I never said that Paige Buckers wasn't a great player. I just said that she wasn't the best player on her team. And that just goes to show you how great Sarah Strong is. Because Sarah Strong is a freshman and she was pushing the charge for this team the whole time. The way I explained to people was Paige Bucker's game isn't flat. The way I explained it to people was Sarah Strong's game isn't flashy. You know what I'm saying? She doesn't care about being seen and making Sports Center in the flashy plays. She's very fundamentally sound. I compare her game to Tim Duncan. Like Tim Duncan would kill you, but it was never a situation where he had to do it in a flashy manner. But at the end of the game, well, he'll have like 28 points, 15 rebounds, or something crazy like that. And that's what happened with Sarah Strong. Like, her game is extremely quiet, but at the end of the game, like the South Carolina game in the championship, she had like 25 points and 15 rebounds or something of that nature. I'm thinking off the top of my head. And she affected the game in a way that nobody else could. And that's what I personally saw from the beginning. And that's what I was telling people. But people coming in saying that you hate Paige, you hate Paige this, you hate Paige that, blah, blah, blah. And I was telling them, the thing with Paige is this. Paige Buckers is being pushed just like Caitlin Clark was last year, Wemby was last year, LeBron in 2003, Derrick Rose in 2008, Ben Simmons in 2016, and Zion Williamson in 2019. Paige Buckers is being pushed. Not saying that she's not a great player, because I personally believe that she's amazing and that she's going to do amazing things in the W because her game is tailor-made and it fits the W. But you could be amazing like her and still not be the best player on your team. It's all about the way that you affect the game. But let other people tell it. You're a racist. You hate white people because you want a black woman to win. Yes, I did want Don Staley to win. I'm not ashamed of that. Hey, like I said, I'm all about supporting my own. And if you have an issue with that, that's mainly on you and not me. I'm not going to be apologetic for that because that's how I was tailor-made. That's how I was raised to be able to support my own and stand in the gap for my own. And this notion of racism is complete garbage. Yes, it exists, but it exists on the side that you wouldn't think that it exists on. And that's on the Caitlin Clark, Paige Bucker side. That level of racism is being shown when you have to constantly belittle somebody else in order to lift who you're trying to lift up. That there indeed is the definition of racism. Now for me, I believe that the solution should be like, we should have a better understanding of what each side is trying to say. Kind of sort of like a guy I was talking to on a post. He was basically saying Dawn Staley lost and it's good for her and she should take those rainbow, quote unquote, girls that she has of hers and have them hit the portal. And I'm glad that they lost. That's basically in a nutshell what he was saying. And I told the guy, like, bro, you did everything but call this woman the N-word. Because, like, for the most part, I called him a bozo and said that he was a bozo for his outlook on that and how it was mainly racist for him to even respond or say anything like that. And he responded saying that, I'm not a racist and you should look at what I said and blah, blah, blah. It's like, bro, the only thing you didn't do was call her the N-word. And you have to go out of your way to disrespect her in order to lift UConn up. And that is the issue that we've been having this whole time. Because anybody that's been watching college sports, especially female sports for a while, they will understand and they will know we haven't had this issue for the most part. It literally just started. And it's just a simple fact of them wanting to uplift an agenda push for Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark was somebody that was great enough to not have to use that agenda push because her game spoke for itself. But at the same time, when they did that, they did it in a way to downgrade Angel Reese and say stuff like, well, she can't make a layup. She can't do this. She can't do that. Blah, blah, blah. She's a loser. Blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, bro, Angel Reese has a national championship at the expense of Caitlin Clark. And like I was telling the guy, you're speaking from a place of ignorance because you have no idea what you're talking about. Because if you would actually know what you were talking about, you would have watched the Unrivaled League and you would have seen how Angel Reese's game has improved in the Unrivaled League. And you would see how it improved leaps and bounds from last year to this year because she's been working with the great Lisa Leslie on various different things. And this guy told me, well, I don't watch that stuff. I only watch the WNBA for Caitlin Clark and all of this. And it's like, okay, so you're making these assumptions just because you want to uplift Caitlin Clark and you're downing Angel Reese to do it. And you see it now with Coach Gino. Coach Gino has been somebody that's been in the coaching circles longer than I've been alive. And he's a well-respected person and a well-respected coach. And the thing with him is the minions surrounding him. Because Dawn Staley is also a great coach and she's a black woman, she's a threat to the legacy of a lot of great coaches. And the other people tell it when all she's doing is working her behind off, building up her own legacy, overachieving mainly this year. And, we can't look past the forest from the trees. For the most part, I said all that to say this. Man, we can take the race out of it and we just have to learn to appreciate what we are seeing. Because these women are doing something extraordinary. And we should praise that. And also, we have to look at these girls as human beings and realize that these girls aren't meant to be masculine like the men are. They're made to be gentle and delicate, feminine, like so on and so forth. They have feelings. And the main thing that hurts me the most is, for the most part, from what I've seen and from what I've heard, these girls, all of these girls that I've talked about in this video, they love each other. Black or white, purple, yellow, indifferent. They have a fond respect for each other. And if we can just take out all of the BS with the fandom, we could get to a common understanding and just appreciate these girls for being the great players that they are. Because, they are great players. And I want us to come together as a people so we can put all these things behind us as far as like these dumb, stupid, race-related issues, because I believe that that's juvenile, and I believe that we are the generation that can push it past it. But in order to do that, we literally have to start looking outside of ourselves and not putting somebody else down in order to lift somebody else up.